All right, baby. So let's do a couple of these review problems for tonight's movie. So let's go ahead and start with number 9. The table shows the relationship between calories and fat grams contained in orders of fried chicken from various restaurants. Assuming the data can be described by a linear model. That's important. So then this tells me that I can do stat and find the linear regression of the line. How many fat grams will be expected to be contained in 275 calories? So the first thing that we need to do is figure out which one is X and which one is Y. Okay. So the fat grams depend on the calorie. The more calories something has, the more fat grams it has, especially if we're talking about fried chicken. So this would be your X and that would be your Y, which means this right here, 275 calories, means that X equals 275. So I got to predict Y when X equals 275. So what I'm going to have to do is go to stat, do the linear regression, which all of you can do. I'm going to go to stat and write down my X's. 305, 410, 320, 500, 510, and 440. And then I'm going to write my Y's. 28, 34, 28, 41, 42, and 38. I'm going to take a few seconds just to make sure that everything is all right. 305 with 208, 410 with 34, 320 with 28, 500 with 41, 510 with 42, and 440 with 38. I'm going to go ahead and do the regression of the line. And it comes up as Y equals 0.07 X plus 5.86. All right. After I've done that, then I need to go ahead and plug in the value of X in the equation so that I can figure out what Y is. So instead of X, I'm going to write down 275. And I could actually probably round that to 6. Oh, sorry. I can round down to 6 and that 0.07 to 0.1. All right. And when you do that in the calculator, you get that Y equals 25.11. So the correct answer would be C. All right, let's go to the next one. A computer is purchased for $1,200. Okay. And depreciates at 140 per year. Which linear equation represents the value Y of the computer at the end of the 2 years? Where you always start with your starting point. It was $1,200 when you first bought it. Depreciate means that it's going down. How much per year? That would be your slope. So it would be 140x. So again, starting point, that's your B. How much it changes per year, that's your M, which would be your slope. So which one has that? It would be letter A. The equation Y equals 461.19x plus 3,492 represents the value of a work from 1964 to 2005. What does the number 461.19 represents? Now, okay, this is a work of art, which means if it's made by a famous artist, it probably increases in value. So the 461.19 is your slope, which means how much is changing, and your X would be the years, right? As many years, as the years go by, the value should increase if this is a famous artist. Okay, so if the slope is 461.19, Does that mean the value of the work in art in 1964? That would be your starting point, so that would be 3,492. Value of the work art in 2005, you cannot find the value of the work art in 2005 unless you plug in some years on X, because years is X. Yearly decrease in value, the value is not decreasing, otherwise it would have a negative slope, so the correct answer would be D. All right, next one. Which is the equation of a line that's parallel to this one that you have, MN, that you have over there on the graph? So the first thing that we need to do is understand that parallel lines have the same slope, so I need to figure out the slope of that one, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do rise over run with the 2 points that I already have labeled over there and figure out what my slope is. Oh, run, not run. 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now that would be the same thing if you simplify by 2 as 1/2. Okay, so I'm looking for a slope that has 1/2. Now the problem is that none of these ones in here are slope-intercept form, so I'm going to have to change them to that. Now I only need the slope, so I don't need to worry about anything else. So for letter A, 2x minus, I'm going to go ahead and write down my invisible one because that invisible one is negative and it will make a difference. I'm going to have to say minus 2x. And then I'm going to have to divide by -1. So when I do that, I'm not going to worry about the y-intercept. I don't need to worry about the y-intercept. I just need the slope because there's parallel lines. -2 divided by -1 would be positive 2x, which means that's not my line because I want 1/2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and erase this so that I can do the next one. For B, x minus 2y equals 3. Now again, I don't have to worry about that. 2, I'm going to have to say minus 1x, there's an invisible 1 right there, divided by -2, which is a number that's with the y. That becomes 1/2, and ding, 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 that's what I need. So the correct answer would be, and I think I'm going to start C or D. All right. Next one. Solve for -1/2 alpha by 2x plus 6 plus 2 equals 0. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and copy it on another piece of paper because I'm going to open a worksheet of paper because over here I don't have space for it. Plus 2 equals 0. So my first step would be to take away 2. That gets rid of that, which means it's going to change to -1/2 2x plus 6 equals -2. The next step would be to get rid of that -1/2, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So a 1 cancels the 1. The -2 cancels the -2, so we're good to go. But if I did it over here, I'm going to have to do it over here. So this over here would be 2x plus 6, absolute value of that. And then -2 times -2 would be positive 4. 1 times 1 is 1, but 4 divided by 1 would be 4, and I'm good to go. Now remember, this is an absolute value, which means that 4 can be positive or negative. So this is 2x plus 6 equals 4, and 2x plus 6 equals -4. Okay, so take away 6 on both sides. That's 0. 2x equals -2. Divide by 2. X equals -1. And on the other one, minus 6 on both sides. 2x equals -10. That's 0. Divide by 2. X equals -5. So I'm looking for -1 and -5. And that would be letter C. All right, for number 14, which direction is the graph of f of x 5 divided by x plus b translate when b increases. Okay, so I don't have any numbers for b, so what I'm going to have to do is give myself some numbers. So this is what I do. F of x is the same thing as y. So I just went ahead and gave myself some numbers. I did x plus 1, keep it simple. And then if there's any change, I want a number that's big enough. Now b is increased. So I want a number that's big enough that I can actually see the translation. So I'm going to say x. I'm going to add, oops, sorry. I'm going to add 4 to that. So I'm going to make it into x plus 5. So now I grab my calculator and I grab both. Okay? So you're going to go to y equal to, and you're going to say 5 divided. Now, the denominator is not just one thing, it's 2, which means I'm going to have to put parentheses around that denominator. If you don't, then you're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up because then she's only going to divide the 5 by the x. So I'm going to open the parentheses and I'm going to have x plus 1. Then I'm going to close that parentheses. And then on the second one, it would be 5 divided by, and then it's x plus 5. Because I went ahead and increased it by 4. That's what I have to do, increase b. Okay, so now I'm going to graph it. That would be the first one, and that would be the second one. So notice, what do you do for the second one? It's right here. You move it to the left. And it's probably 5 units. 4 units to the left, all right? So my answer would be letter A. And then this is the last one for the video today. A poll shows that it's likely that with a margin of error plus minus 2 percentage points, 78% of those randomly selected from the population would vote for a particular candidate. This situation can be described by the inequality. Absolute value of x minus 7 less than or equal to 2, which graph shows the percentage of voters according to the inequality who favor the candidate. That's a bunch of blah, 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 just to tell you so that there is absolute value of inequality, okay? So remember, x minus 78 less than or equal to 2, are going to move that inequality sign to the front, but with a negative 2 in front of it, all right? So first part, and then second part, okay? So for the first part, negative 2 less than or equal to x minus 78. I'm going to have to do plus 78 on both sides. That would be 0. And x is greater than or equal to negative 2 and 78 would be 76. That doesn't help because all of them have 76. Now, the less than or equal to does help me eliminate 2 of them because you have to have a shaded in on 76. So it's not 8 and it's not 76 because they're both open. And these are equal to, so they have to be shaded in. Okay, let's do the second one. X minus 78 less than or equal to 2 plus 78 plus 78, that would be 80. Okay, so let's see. X has to be, the crocodile eats the x, which means x has to be greater than 76. That would be less than 76. This would be greater. And crocodile eats the 80, which means the x has to be less than 80. This is greater, that would be less. So the correct answer would be D. All right, babies. Make sure that you watch this movie. You guys have a great night. Make annotations because tomorrow we will check this out, okay? Have a good night. Baby girl.